All right, let's talk about the work of the late, great Bob Proctor. We're going to try and answer a really simple question today. Why do so many of us get stuck? And more importantly, how can we use his method to totally rewire our reality?
So let's just start with the central question, the one Proctor himself was pretty much obsessed with. Why are so many of us stuck?
I mean, you've definitely had this feeling, right? You know how to improve your life. You've read the books, you've got the information, but when you look at your actual results, they're kind of the same this year as they were last year. It's super frustrating. And this is where Bob Proctor just cuts right through the noise. He said, when paradigms stay in control, nothing changes. That single word, the paradigm, that is the key to everything. It's why we get stuck, and it's how we finally get unstuck.
So let's really dig into this core problem.
To really get this, you have to look at Proctor's own story. When he was 26, this was his life. He was making $4,000 a year. And he'd be the first to tell you, he was unhappy, he was unhealthy, and he was completely buried in debt. But then, just a few years later, after he applied a very specific method, his income skyrocketed to over $1 million a year. So what changed? He didn't magically get smarter, and he wasn't really working any harder. What Proctor figured out was that the real issue isn't a lack of knowledge or a lack of effort. No, the real problem is this hidden program, kind of like a mental operating system that's just running your life on complete autopilot. And Proctor gave this hidden program a name. He called it our paradigm. So let's break down exactly what that means. So what in the world is a paradigm? Well, it's basically a massive collection of habits and beliefs that have been programmed deep down into your subconscious mind. And this program, it controls your behavior. And it turns out almost all of our behavior is just habit. So where does this programming even come from? Well, it's basically a mix of three things. What's in our DNA, our environment when we were kids, and then the constant, endless repetition that locks it all in place. And this is probably the best analogy for how it works. Proctor said to think of your paradigm like a thermostat. If your financial temperature is set to, say, $50,000 a year, your paradigm will work automatically to keep you right there. If you make a little more, something will happen to pull you back down. If you fall below, you'll get a push back up. It just maintains the status quo, no matter what. Okay, that might sound a little discouraging, right? But here is the amazing news. We are the only creatures on this entire planet who are not stuck with our programming. We have the tools to change it. Think about it. Animals operate on instinct. But we've been given these incredible gifts, our higher mental faculties, our imagination, our willpower, our ability to reason. These are the very tools we can use to consciously build a new program and create the life we want. And we use these tools by working with the unchangeable laws of the universe. Proctor loved to quote the rocket scientist Wernher von Braun on this. You know, just like science uses precise laws to do impossible things like go to the moon, we can use universal laws to change our own personal reality. So how do we actually do it? Well, Proctor distilled the entire method down into a shockingly simple two-step process. And here it is. This is the whole thing. The method for overriding your old paradigm is this. First, you have to make a truly committed decision about the life you actually want. And second, you use focused emotional repetition to burn that new idea into your subconscious mind. Let's just hang on that first step for a second. Because Proctor was so clear about this, you do not need to know how you're going to get your goal. You don't need the money or the contacts. The only thing you need to make that decision is a deep, burning desire, a real want. The story of his aunt is just the perfect example of this. At 60 years old, she was convinced her life was pretty much over. But after Proctor taught her these ideas, she just made a decision. She started writing down a list of what she really, truly wanted. That one decision led to a new business, millions of dollars, and an amazing, vibrant life all the way until she was 94. And that brings us to that second, absolutely crucial step, repetition. Once you have that crystal clear image of what you want, you have to impress it onto your subconscious mind over and over and over again. Writing your goal, visualizing it, feeling it, this is the work. This is how you literally replace the old programming with the new. So this entire process really just boils down to this one last incredibly powerful question. But first, a little warning. The method is simple,
But simple is not the same as easy. The second you make a new decision, your old paradigm, that little voice of doubt and fear, it's going to fight you tooth and nail. It will give you every reason why you can't do it. That resistance, that's the barrier you have to push through. Which brings us right to the end. You know the method. You have the tools inside you right now. So the only question left, the one that kicks off every big change, is this. What is the one thing you will truly decide to become?